Live from the basement of the YouTube headquarters, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and this Friday, let's help you find more luck with your money. Sound impossible? We'll share tactics, strategies, and philosophical ideas on today's roundtable discussion with our money geek friends. Plus, at the halfway point of today's show, we'll see which of these money nerds is going to score a point in our year-long Stacker Trivia Contest. And now, a guy who's always feeling lucky because he gets to work with this guy, it's Joe Saul-Sehy.
Oh, nothing more fun, Doug, than working with you. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Stacking Benjamin Show. Super happy that you're here. Welcome to our Friday recording. And Doug, good to see you, my friend.
Good to be seen, Joe. Good to be seen.
Let's meet the other people that are going to be joining us. Of course, we got the gentleman across the card table from me right now. Mr. OG joins us. How are you, brother?
Just living the dream.
It is fantastic.
Middle of the chaos of the, right before Halloween, and it's just all the stuff. It's all the stuff of the things.
All the stuff.
PSL season,
fall break
baby.
Coming? When do we get a fall break?
I have not had any pumpkin spice anything yet. I feel like I don't know what's going on. I don't know why not.
Yeah, I didn't ask for that. Nope. Don't need any 1,200 calorie drinks. I just need a fall break. Just need a break.
I think most schools, it's happening like this week or next week. A lot of colleges are right here in mid-October.
That's what I'm talking about.
What's going on with this show?
Why don't we have a fall break?
Wait a minute.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
I want a fall break, Doug. Me. This is about me. I don't know. This will come as a shock to you, but on occasion, I like to talk about me.
He's just hitting about what we should be doing. You know what we should be doing? We should be introducing the other people joining us on the show. The woman in Manhattan who, I don't know, does she love a 1,200 calorie drink? Paula Pant is here. Pumpkin spice latte for the win, Paula?
Yeah, I'm not like an enthusiast, but if I'm offered one, I will absolutely take it. Absolutely.
If you're buying, I'm accepting.
Well, I typically I wouldn't go seek one out, but
No.
if I happen to be drinking one, I enjoy
You're
it.
walking down the subway stairs and there was one sitting there like on the stairs next to you. You're like, hey, that's a pumpkin spice latte somebody didn't finish.
I might as well finish that up. Look, there's a good quarter of it left.
Guys, I found this in the dumpster.
Like all the free gum underneath all the railings. It's like an elf.
Well, that sounds like a heavy metal intro, doesn't it? Like at a heavy metal show, like people would do that. They get all crazy, which is great because we got the guy who does that from Heavy Metal Money. Friend Chris Luger's here. How are you, man?
Hey, I'm doing well. I am an absolute pumpkin spice fanatic. And
Can you take the pumpkin spice latte to the heavy metal show? Like, is that or do they laugh at you?
If it was available, I'd have it. I eat and drink all of the pumpkin spice, everything.
It's hard to air guitar though, Chris, when you got a pumpkin spice in your hand.
I just went to our Minnesota Zoo has this jack-o'-lantern trail. There's like 5,000 jack-o'-lanterns. You can walk this trail. It's pretty cool. And I bought one of their special holiday hot chocolates with cinnamon and a pumpkin flavored marshmallows. It was $13 for a cup of hot cocoa.
And you enjoyed every second of it, didn't
you?
It
was fantastic. I mean, like you said, it's like 1,400 calories, but
it is. But you were at the fair, right? If you're at the fair, it's fat free.
Yeah, that's right, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell the three people that are new to Stacking Benjamin's land what goes on at Heavy Metal Money, because I think you just had like this phenomenal interview a few weeks ago that was just amazing.
Yeah, so people can find my podcast, my blog over at heavymetal.money. We talk about spending, saving, investing, all turned up to 11.
this whole show, Heavy Metal Money, goes up to 11. Are you excited about the new speaking of 11, the new Spinal Tap coming, Spinal Tap 2?
The end continues.
It's
Yeah,
it's going to
absolutely.
be great. Does Paula even know what Spinal Tap is?
I don't.
She has no
I,
clue.
It's not a fun medical procedure.
It is. It is not. We got a great show today because Chris is here, Paula's here, OG's here, Doug and and I found this great Substack about luck. And we often, how often have you seen somebody who's wealthy and you go, oh, they're just lucky. Oh, I remember that.
Must be nice. That's the phrase.
Yeah, when I was with American Express, I remember there was this top advisor out in Seattle, and they go, "Oh, you know what? Her dad works for Boeing. Her dad, she just got lucky that she was in the family." And it was later on that I learned how hard this woman worked. And don't get me wrong, she had opportunity, but it wasn't luck. She took opportunity and she had to run with it. And so we're going to talk about luck and increasing your chance of luck on today's show. But before we get to that, we got a couple sponsors to make sure we can keep on keeping on. You don't pay a dime for any of this goodness. So grab some paper, think about luck in your life, and we're going to talk about luck and your financial plan and maybe being luckier at work. 3, 2, 1. Our piece today comes from the Substack of, and it's funny, you'd think that I would have, after all these years, I would learn that you should probably have the piece up before you start introducing things. Kate Hall wrote this on her Substack, Useful Fiction, and it's called How to Increase Your Surface Area for Luck. And Paula, I don't think I'm alone here. You often hear people say, oh, they just got lucky with their investments, or look at how, if I could just get luckier with my investments, if I weren't so unlucky with my investments, man, my life would be completely different.
Well, she makes a great point in her piece where she talks about how luck is a function of the number of times that you've tried, because if you try, like you've got two people, one person has fewer tries and the other person has more tries. The person with more tries, assuming that those tries don't wipe you out, is likely to have luck. Just that it's just math. Like it's just probability.
That's funny. Luck equals math. I think she makes that comment, doesn't she?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's really
If
just
you had
probabilistic thinking.
If you had any idea how often I tried to get lucky in college, you'd know I could prove that theorem wrong. It's not just about trying to get lucky.
It was so fun. I even thought when I said before the sponsor spots, when I said being luckier at work, Doug was like, oh.
I'm just like, I got to work it in. I got to find a way.
I could tell the 12-year-old was like right there. But Chris, getting back to maybe the point of the piece, call me crazy. But if we talk about luck, to you, is it velocity like Paula's talking about and Kate's talking about, just the speed of your decision making?
I think, I think that you need a number of at bats, right? Like you said, the number of tries, like you said, Paula, it's just math. But I also feel as though it's more about the people that are around you. Like, I mean, people used to always talk about like if I mentioned that, hey, I retired at 50, a lot of people say, oh, you're lucky. You're lucky that happened. And I believe that there's always like you're in the right place at the right time for certain things to happen. But I also feel as though you increase your luck by doing certain things, right? Whether you're learning new skills, networking and meeting the people around you, taking a risk. I think that's the number one thing. Don't be afraid to take a risk and learn new things. I think that really is a way that you can increase your luck.
But is there, though, Chris, this idea of risk meets like probability management? Because I see some people take these crazy ass risks, right? And without really thinking through the probable chance that this risk could bear fruit. I feel like, and I'm thinking back to when we had Ted Dintersmith talking about education early this summer, and he's talking about how, if we knew statistics better, if we taught statistics better in high school to kids, like kids might make some better decisions about even career choices in the future.
Don't you think don't you think maybe they would be more afraid to make some of those choices or take those risks and then therefore not be lucky? You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's funny because if you think about, I don't know, I think, OG, let's bring you into the discussion. If we think about velocity, it seems like we all agree that making more decisions works. But if we've got then 3 decisions in front of us and we're going to keep making decisions at a certain speed, we got 3 of them, like thinking through probability is going to help you make better ones.
What is the context of this luck discussion? Are we thinking about like luck in terms of investment choices, luck in terms of saving, luck in terms of spouse outcome or career choice? Like what's because I think all of those are going to be different. I mean, I certainly didn't, you don't want to go through like a bunch of spouse choices before you get to the one that you want to sit on. You know what I mean? It's like that one I don't think works.
I tried this 9 times and finally it's working
finally
out.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
isn't there some math about when you're hiring somebody too? Like you don't want to interview too many people. Like you got to have like the 7th person be the one, right? Something like that.
It's called the secretary problem.
Mm.
And it's a mathematical equation in which that lays out the optimal number of people that you hire, the optimal number of people that you interview before you have interviewed enough such that you can make a good decision, but not so many that you are wasting your time. So I don't fully understand the math of it, but somebody, some greater mathematician than
somebody
I
figured it out.
Yeah. So it's referred to as the secretary problem.
Got it.
But that is, but
you do that trying to find your spouse?
Yeah, so people do apply that to the mathematics of love. There's actually a book on my bookshelf back there called The Mathematics of Love. I just haven't read it yet.
You took the joke, Paula. We all had it ready.
I actually have. I read it.
But I guess, OG, back to your point. I mean, let's talk about in your financial plan, right? Can too much experimenting in your financial plan really ruin your chance of a good result?
It's a great joke about Doug and experimenting. They're also in college, but it's
college.
Do anything once in college. Ultimately, I think it's around, it's less luck. And I think it's more discipline. I think people think like luck is this thing that just favors you. And like Paula said, when you make more decisions, when you have more at bats, I was thinking Doug's wearing are you wearing a Tigers hat? Is that what you got on, Doug? I think it's baseball Tigers hat.
Darn right I am.
So, you're going to hit more home runs if you have more at bats. Like that's just eventually going to work out. Now that number might just be 1. You might just get 1, but you're going to have a better chance than somebody who just steps up to the plate 1 time. And so I think in some cases, as it relates to career choices or learning, as you're developing yourself, the speed at which you can do that. When it comes to money and goal attainment, when we think about financial planning, I think it's more about systems and trying to make fewer decisions, actually, maybe is the better way to do it. Because the more times you have an opportunity to look at your stock portfolio, the more choices you have to go, am I doing the right thing?
I'm going to mess it up.
But the people who just pick an asset allocation, make a decision once a year to rebalance it, keep putting in $23,500 in their 401k, they wake up going, I don't even know how I got $2 million. It's because you didn't screw with the system. And then you say, well, you got lucky. It's like, well, there's other factors there, right? I have a career that allows me to save the money, or I have a significant other that helps with the bills, or I have a low cost of living, or whatever the case may be.
But OG, someone may still call you lucky for doing that.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how to think about this in a way that's not systems related. There's certainly things that are lucky. Like we're lucky that we live in the country that we live in the time in which we live. My grandfather was born in 1919. He at the time also thought he was probably pretty lucky that he didn't live in the 1800s. It's like we're in a good spot compared to, having to forage for our food every single day. Like that's pretty fortunate. I mean, just thinking about how many people had to stay alive for you to show up on this planet throughout the, a couple dozen generations or whatever, however far back you want to go. It's like, that's pretty lucky, but getting, having $1 million in my 401k. That's not luck. That's just
No, but
20 grand.
still, I was wondering where the intersection might be here, OG, because I do think that you're right on when it comes to like trying to learn a new skill. You see the statistics all the time. People give up just as they're about to learn something, right? They're just about there. They're just to the spot where it's just starting to take effect and they stop. People don't see the job till the end. But when it comes to your money, I thought, yeah, I guess you are right that leaving your hands off it doesn't work. But Chris, think about this. How many times have you seen people go, well, you know what? Budgeting works for other people, but it doesn't work for me. I try to budget, and the budget just this whole budgeting thing just totally just doesn't work for me, which is probably the wrong answer.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, you hear it all the time.
It's incredibly frustrating when maybe that budget didn't work. And I'll give you an example. Like I've got this 20-minute budgeting system that works for me every week for Cheryl and I would teach it to my clients. And you know what was funny was out of the box, it wouldn't work with 90% of my clients. But when we tweaked it just a little bit so it would work with them versus throwing it away, it worked better. I mean, we see this all the time with diets and exercise, right, Paula? I mean, people go, well, that whole dieting thing or this whole, spin class. Oh, I tried that twice and it was horrible. I got all sore, so I gave it up.
Right. And it's funny because, a lot of times diets or there are all of these different philosophies. There's Whole30, there's keto, there's this, there's that. And there are a lot of ways to eat that are very black and white in the way in which they're taught. And because of that black and white teaching style, a lot of people will develop an all or nothing approach to it. And so like because of that all or nothing approach, if there's an element that doesn't work, people will often just give up the whole thing. So last January, myself and a group of friends, we were all on WhatsApp doing it together, doing this like dry January coupled with sort of like a Whole30 sort of a thing together.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah.
gross. You know how hammered you have to be on
We thought
December
we would
31st to
torture
make it last?
I tried, by the way, wet January, like that one a ton better. So much more fun.
Let's space it out more.
And I remember, I remember one guy, I think we got to like the 17th of the month and he was like, oops, I had a glass of wine, I'm out, and we're like, dude, it's fine, like if you drop the all or nothing thinking and just give yourself a little bit of grace, and for me, like I found that giving up, part of that was we were supposed to also give up caffeine. I was like, I stuck with that for about 10 days. And then I was like, no, caffeine is coming back. That one is a non-negotiable.
Wow.
But I like that though. When you try something, you go, you know what? It is for you. It is the right thing. Less caffeine in your life is the right thing. But you know what? For me right now, I'm going to choose to go a different way. I love the fact that I have a budget. I have a budgeting system that works. And there's still times when Cheryl and I decide, Paula, to go the other way. We're like, forget the budget. I'm doing this instead.
Yeah.
Not bad. Another Paula hanging out with us says, budgeting doesn't work. Translation, I really want to spend more money than I make. That is 100%. But when it comes to your portfolio, OG, people talk about like, proper or different ways to do asset allocation, different ways to diversify. Buying individual stocks versus holding on to mutual funds or exchange traded funds. Like how much of that is the diversification is important versus how much of that is learning the right thing to do. And okay, I made a mistake, getting back in the game. Like I accidentally, I panicked and I sold when it was low. And then I learned my lesson. So I didn't do it that time. So again, trying again and trying again and trying again. So is it diversification that's important or is it getting back in the ring?
Well, I think you're talking about two different things. One is around like, how do I take the money that I have and make sure it's in the right buckets or the buckets that I think that are right? And the reality for that is there is no wrong or right answer because everybody's a little bit different. And this is going to come as a shock to a lot of people. Nobody can predict what the future is going to be. At the beginning of January this year, if we said, hey, you should probably have 30% of your money in international stocks, people are like, that's crazy. Like, international is awful. It hasn't done anything in 15 years. Why in the heck would I want to have any of my money there? Well, guess what? And by the summertime, it was beating the pants off of the US market by a considerable margin. Is it that I knew that was going to happen? Is that why we said that? No. Is it that I could prove to you that it was going to happen? No. It just makes sense to me that you want to own one of everything. Just easier, right? So I think philosophically, understanding big picture stuff is more important than spending a lot of time and energy on the little idiosyncrasies. I think I don't remember this exact number, but I believe that somebody somewhere.
Oh, what? Might
That's
have
credible.
said.
That's credible.
This is what we call a primary source. Somebody somewhere said, no, I don't remember that. I don't remember what study this was. Somebody knows, but that asset allocation or merely being invested is 91% of the return. The other 9 is the market timing, the exact asset allocation. Did you buy in on the right day or the wrong day? Did you get lucky? Did you, put your money in on the right day? I've told this story before, but there's somebody who invested a bunch of money. It was like kind of a rollover, so it was already invested, but in their mind it was new money, and they invested it on April the 8th this year. And so when they look at their investment account, they go, my goodness, look at how smart I am.
I'm a genius.
I got out on March 31 when my rollover check went in the mail, and I got it back in on April the 8th. Holy moly. I would argue that's not skill. That was pure 1000% luck. So in that context, that's just good fortune to be able to say, I got out on the right day and got back in on the right day. Not because I was trying to do it, but because that's just when the checks were in the mail.
Sure. But what's funny is that luck looks great in that scenario over the short run, but 30 years from now, the difference between picking that day versus picking the quote wrong day a week earlier, it's going to be infinitesimally small.
In 30 years, absolutely.
Incredibly small.
And that's the point. It's the same thing as, do I have 8% of my portfolio in small cap value or 9.5%? Or do I have 25% international or 27% in it? It's like, none of this matters. The fact that you are investing matters. The fact that you're saving money matters.
What I really like, OG, when you were talking about international stocks, I like that because really that first question and this idea of luck is kind of the framing of the entire place. But the place Kate starts in this, I find incredibly fascinating. And that is the idea of being curious, right? She starts off as, you are going to be luckier if you find yourself more curious. And it kind of strikes me, Chris, that when I'm listening to OG talk, he's like, of course you don't international. Well, how do you know? Well, you get curious enough to read back through all the statistics and do some research on what successfully has made an investor. I feel like this is a strong suit, being a friend of yours for a while, Chris, of yours. Like, you seem to be naturally curious about the world around you. Was that something you were born with, or is that something that you developed as a way to educate yourself over time?
No, I was always kind of like wanted to know why and how things worked. And then it just kind of, me moving up into my career and being an enterprise engineer, that's the way I learn. But I think it's only part of the story, because you got to, you can be curious, right? Like she mentions in the article, but you also have to be, you got to be able to take action on the things you've learned. You got to be able to actually do something, because, you can just be overly, educating, soaking up all this stuff. But man, if you're not actually taking action and taking the risk, again, for some reason, I always feel cringy when people talk about luck, because I just feel as though there is always something you can do to alter that, whether it's more lucky or less lucky, right? Like, I mean, if somebody says, you know what, oh, you're so lucky because, you got that job or whatever. Well, you could be unlucky by not keeping appointments, sleeping late, not going to the interview, whatever. Or you could network, meet the right people. That person introduces you to somebody else that recommends you for the job, and now you got the job. So you can, again, increase or decrease your luck, so to speak, by the actions you take. So you can be curious, but you got to take action.
It's like the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
TM. Trademark that.
Yeah, I just thought of that right now. Just like last week, I thought of this whole idea of you can afford anything, but not everything. Like the brilliance that is me is incredible. But Paula, while we're talking about actually what you built, another thing I like about what Kate says here, and I know our stackers don't have it in front of them, but I think this is really important. She really makes a big deal about the fact it shouldn't be transactional. And I feel like in life now, everything is transactional. When I go online, they're like, hey, if you just spend 5 minutes doing this one thing, the transaction is that'll make your life a ton better. And I feel like Kate's saying, you just have to be willing to explore. You have to be willing to just get out there and F it up, I guess.
Well, I think transactional approaches is short-term thinking, right? With a transactional approach, you might get a coffee meeting. You might get, depending on what industry you're in, maybe you'll sell some small widget. Like transactional approaches can only take you so far, but developing relationships, right? That's where you reap these long-term rewards that you don't even know at the beginning of that relationship what that's going to unfold into 5, 10, 20 years into the future. And so and maybe it won't quote unquote develop into anything other than you just had a great friendship, and there's immense value in that too, right? So relationships are far more valuable for the long term, but so many people approach strangers with this transactional thinking.
It's funny. I think so transactionally, and I didn't realize this until we interviewed Shemin Nurmuhammad a couple weeks ago. And Shemin actually talked about the difference when she lived in France about just being in America. We think, well, I got to trade time for money. I have to trade. I have to get back to my desk and I have to do more processes. And the French will often spend 90 minutes at lunch, but then they come up with the answer to the question much quicker, Paula, because they're asking who, not how, right? Because they have so many who's in their life that can very quickly answer these questions that we are all pounding the keyboard trying to find on YouTube, that the relationship ends up being the answer. So I love what you're saying about relationships.
Right. And the notion of asking who, not how. I mean, that is for me, that's a new aha. That's something that I've only learned recently and that
Yeah,
I'm
me
still
too.
trying to incorporate into my life. In fact, I just downloaded the audiobook, the Who Not How audiobook.
Yeah.
Literally downloaded that in the last week. So
It's such a great lesson.
yeah, that is I think a critically important lesson, one that I'm only in the very beginning stages of learning and incorporating. But it truly is, especially as people become increasingly specialized, it makes no sense to try to take on too much on your own. Like we are an interdisciplinary species, interdependent species, right? Rely on other people to be, rely on that interdependence.
And the better we know people and the less transactional we are about it, just we have this deeper knowledge of the people around us, the easier it's going to be to know who our who's are.
Right.
OG, when you're an advisor, you naturally have to be curious about what your client wants, right? To be a good team member and help them get what they want. But I'm wondering how our stackers can use that same curiosity to build a better financial plan. Like, how do we think more curiously about our lives to be able to make our financial plan more robust?
There's something that Paula said earlier, and I was and I don't remember exactly how you phrased it, Paula, but I was thinking in my head that in order to go fast, you've got to slow down.
Mm.
And so many times I think we want to rush through whatever it is that whatever we're trying to do or whatever the case may be. And I don't know if that's just culturally, and that's the difference between Joe, your example of France and America, the lunch thing. But very, very often, when you give yourself space to do other things, Steve Jobs, for example, very famously would only do conversations while walking around. Because it like moved people along. Like they would like, oh, is this your building? Okay, good. Off you go. Like
See
you
ya.
could get out of it. But also, there's just something about being in the shower and having your thought, going like, oh, that's the idea to that problem. Like when you just give yourself space to think about stuff, it materialized. And so I think from a planning perspective, when we're thinking about like long-term financial goals, it sounds really silly, but I would spend 99% of the time thinking about that. Like if I'm doing this for myself, I'm thinking about what do I want my life to look like? What do I want my family situation to look like? What do I want my health to look like? My, spirituality to look like? That's what I want to spend all of my time and energy on. And the rest of it's like, okay, cool. Now how does the money fit into that? How do I do that? Disney famously said, when your just values are clear, your decisions are easy, right? That's one of his famous quotes. And I think it's, when you're struggling with, somebody said, if you don't want to budget, it's because you want to spend all your money. Well, that's because we don't have really clear values. For people that have a really clear understanding of what the future looks like, the savings, investing, the decision making around that's not about sacrifice. It's about like, this is the progress I make to get to the thing that's important to me. It's not about like going like, oh, woe is me, I need to, I can't do this because I have to blah 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 blah. It's like I'm choosing to put money in my retirement plan and not go on vacation right now, or whatever the case may be, so that I can have the life that I really want. So I think going a lot slower, I think, is super important, and spending a bunch of time on the stuff that's not, um, a bunch of stuff that's not money related, the dollars and cents. Spend all your time on the who do I want to be? Like, what do I want my life to look like? And then the money just kind of fits in there.
Part of what I don't like about changes in financial planning are, I liked way back when I was an advisor, just the idea of getting people out of their house and their natural habitat and coming into an office that is not a part of their life on a daily basis. Cause I found that it was so much easier when we didn't have all these distractions. I think it's hard to get to that spot where you dream bigger and you get more curious when you're surrounded by the daily living stuff still, the chaos that's going on in your life. Part of the fun for me of strategic coach was always just the fact that I go to Chicago, and it was on the plane there and on the plane back that I do some of my best thinking, just because I wasn't surrounded. I think it's hard to be curious when you're in the grind. I think it's very, very curious.
And that's why, Joe, sometimes like we'd have our leadership meetings offsite for a day, right? Just because we're in that different environment, we can think bigger. We're not in that day-to-day operational thinking.
And maybe, Chris, I mean, you and I have had fun together at Camp Fi's, right? And Camp Fi, I think, is all about that. You're just you're at this retreat center, way out of your daily life. So yeah, great stuff. Well, she's only begun. We've got 2 or 3 more areas of Kate's piece that I'll link to in our show notes that we're going to dive into about the idea of luck and increasing your chance of luck. But at the halfway point of each Stacking Benjamin show, we have this amazing trivia competition on Friday. It's between our 3 usual contributors, OG, Paula, and normally it's Jesse Kramer. Today, Chris, you get to play the part of Jesse Kramer. And as member of Team Jesse Kramer, well, I've got some good news and some bad news for you, my friend. Which one would you like first?
I was like the bad news first.
Well, the bad news is actually the good news, which is that you are in the lead if you're part of Team Jesse Kramer, which was not the case until just a couple of weeks ago. But Doug, what's our score so far in this competition as we slide into, getting into the heat of the fourth quarter?
Presently, Joe, Jesse/Chris is leading with 12.5 points. Our usual and still reigning champion, OG, has just 11 points. And Paula, she's just hanging out in the back with 8.5 points. Just like doing her whole 30, being dry October.
It's sober October.
That's
Sober October. Yeah, so that's why she doesn't have enough of a buzz to get the trivia.
No, she thought we were talking dry as in can't get the answer right. Oh, it was alcohol. I thought it was trivia answers. That I
Dry
wasn't
humor.
supposed to. Yeah, dry. Right, exactly. Wait, what? We're supposed to. Oh, I see. All right. So that is the score. Chris, you're going to guess first. OG's going to guess second. Paula gets to guess third, which you would think would be an advantage. But after all these years, I'm starting to wonder.
It's not over yet. Come on.
But every week, Doug, you've got this week's question. What are we talking about today?
Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and today we celebrate the day a cheater was arrested. Don't worry, OG's not in handcuffs yet, but if you've ever golfed with him, you'd know his use of the unplayable lie rule is rather liberal. No, instead, I'm talking about Charles Van Doren, a popular contestant on an early TV quiz show from the 50s and 60s called 21, when he was accused of perjury for lying to a grand jury that he had not been given the answers ahead of time. In order to boost ratings, former champion Herb Stempel was told by producers to give intentionally wrong answers, while Van Doren was made to look incredible. I can assure everyone out there that when it comes to the Stacking Benjamins trivia, we have buttloads of integrity.
Yeah.
Our contestants have
Sounds-
zero idea what the answers to the questions are going to be. And even if they did, they'd still get the answer incorrect. Right? Right, Paula?
I was going to say, this sounds a lot
Give
like
you
the
the
talking
answer.
to that I got about always kicking everybody's butt at trivia. So go on. Tell me more about this real life story of me being told to throw it on purpose. To make it more
Well,
interesting.
how about this?
Oh, no. It
Even
was.
I have no idea what the answers to these questions are going to be because, like Ron Burgundy, I just read what's in front of me and I have no idea what I just said. I see what you did there, Joe. Okay. But Van Doren, before he was caught, won a buttload of money, $129,000 to be exact, or the equivalent of over $1.1 million today. I mean, that's a buttload of money. Am I
Dude,
right?
stop saying buttload. It's just a lot.
Well, no, I'm not going to stop saying buttload because that's today's actual trivia question. Turns out that a buttload, I'm going to squeeze as many of these as I can, is an actual unit of measure. The term buttload, there's another one, originates from medieval liquid measurements, specifically butts, which equate to 2 hogsheads. I mean, who didn't know that? So, stackers, how many imperial gallons equal a buttload of wine? I'll be back right after I go watch the video to see how Joe's mom keeps beating me at rummy. I'm sure that woman's channeling her inner Van Doren.
All right,
All
Doug
right,
will be
listen,
back.
I'm going to jump in here. All of you people watching us tape this, do not go Google it and put answers in the chat right now. No matter how
Paula's
much you wanna
wondering
help
if
out
you
Paula.
are to keep saying buttload because you have a colonoscopy scheduled soon.
Hey, those are great.
Yeah. Don't talk about Doug's idea of a good time. Chris, a buttload of wine. How many imperial gallons of wine would that be, my friend?
A buttload. I knew it was an actual measurement, but I had no idea if it was like a liquid measurement. Is it like, how do you measure dry goods? I don't know. So we're talking about gallons, huh?
Gallons, imperial gallons.
I think a buttload is 9 gallons.
9 gallons. Oh, gee, you think that's high or low?
My original thought was 5.5. But I gotta put some. I gotta make Paula make a decision here. So I think I'm thinking of like a barrel of wine, and medieval times would they have a barrel of wine? I don't know. So I'm gonna say a barrel of wine is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 55 gallons. So I'm going to say 55 gallons is a buttload of wine.
Wow. So wait, your first guess was going to be 5.5, and then you go
Yeah,
up to
but it was
55.
just it's largely contingent on what Chris said. So
Well, I was gonna
since
say,
he said 9, I can't say 10 because Paul will say 8, and but so I'm going to give her a number that she has to kind of really fiddle with, depending on what she thinks. Maybe she thinks it's 500, and she's like, "Oh, you idiots are way off."
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, gee, that seemed like you were using like data and smarts to figure that out. That's pretty. You did a pretty good job there.
We'll see.
Like, wait, what? All right, Paula, you've got them. Chris has 9. OG has 55.
Yeah. So my first question is this a base 10 measurement or a base 12 measurement? I feel like it would have to be a number divided.
It's a buttload. It's all about the base.
And sheep's heads.
Hogs heads.
So
Hogs
yeah,
heads.
I believe that the number would be divisible by either, the 3s and 4s or 2s and 5s.
3s and 4s.
Yeah. So that it can be thirded or quartered. Hi. Okay. So we're talking the olden days when it was harder to transport things. So a 55-gallon drum of something would actually be like,
A
you know,
buttload.
yeah, like it would be heavy enough that you could turn it on its side and roll it without it gathering too much momentum down a steep hill. But
Where is this
What's
going?
happening right now?
you could turn it on it. You can take a 55-gallon drum and you can turn it on its side and roll it, and that would be a relatively reasonable method of transportation, even if you did not have some alternate transportation, right? Because imagine loading like a 55-gallon drum onto a wagon, like it's
But if you
difficult.
cut that drum into thirds, it gets a lot
Yes.
lighter.
It's like a third of a buttload.
I love how
'Cause all the liquid comes
overthinking
out.
Paula is. It's so great.
Don't they measure buttloads in halves? Like-
Possibly.
Like right and
If you
left.
cleave it.
I'm going to take the under of 55. So we'll go with 54.
54. All right. So Paula with 54, OG with 55, Chris with 9. Who's right? We're going to find out in just a minute. All right, 3, 2, 1. Chris, you opened this up with 9 gallons, and OG went big to see which way Paula would go. She took the middle. You feeling good? You've got 9 up somewhere into the mid-20s.
I am not feeling good.
Not feeling good.
No, I'm not.
OG, how about you? 55 gallons. Did your trick work?
I was trying. We'll find out. I was trying to figure out how big a hog's head would be. I've seen hogs. I've seen their heads, and they don't seem like they would hold a lot.
55
So,
gallons doesn't seem.
yeah, but anyways, maybe that was just a phrase of some kind. I don't know.
Who
isn't
knows?
I
Hogs
wanted
head-
to give
isn't
Paula
there-
a big enough number that she had to like make a choice. I honestly thought she wouldn't say 54, 56, or 10. I thought she'd say 27 or something.
There is a brand of beer called Hogshead, isn't there?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do recall that. Now that you said
And
that. And all of a sudden, I'm
OG
super thirsty.
OG, make sure he has one in wet January every year. So, Paula, you took 54. Feeling good?
Yeah, I'm feeling mid because the issue is now OG has the entire top half of the, he's got the entire
I have
upper
all
range.
of his
He's got
Infinity.
blue sky.
Right, exactly.
Blue sky.
So I
Yeah.
might have just ceded too much ground.
For all the stackers that didn't hear it, we did put a joke in the question, which is that Paula convinced me to use a new social media app a couple weeks ago called, what's it called? Be Real?
Be real, yeah.
Be Real, where you take a picture. So I took a picture that I was getting ready for the show last week, and Paula writes me and goes, "Hey, I can see the trivia in your I can see the trivia in your thing. I know it's about Spiro Agnew, and I know it's about some date in October." And
I was very honest.
yes, and I was talking to Doug about it, and Doug's like, "Well, should we change it?" I'm like, "No, it's Paula." And sure enough, Paula still didn't win.
I still lost.
She knew exactly where we were going last week with the trivia. Still did not win.
I still lost. But I mean, I intentionally, I told you immediately. I was like, all right,
She
he's
did.
got to know. So yeah, I was like, Jojo, just so you know, I know that this is about Spiro Agnew. I know that it relates to a date in October of 1973.
And she was
But
honest enough not to look it up
yeah,
and to still take the loss.
exactly. But I intentionally did not Google that or look that up. So I still lost. Yeah.
Yes. So no
You
relation to
lost with
Charles Van
integrity,
Doren.
Paula.
Yeah, thank
Lost
you.
with absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, let's see which two of you are going to lose with integrity this week. Doug, what's our answer, man?
Hey there, stackers. I'm trivia host and guy who apparently gets beat at cards fair and square. Says you, Ma. Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. While it turns out that I can drum up zero evidence of Joe's mom cheating, today we are celebrating the day a cheater was caught. I'm telling you, OG, the sand trap rake cannot be used as a club length. Also, quiz show contestant Charles Van Doren. I remarked that he'd already pocketed a buttload of money when Joe protested, I might add, that I shouldn't use such language. Unbeknownst to him, I actually looked up this week's trivia, and it turns out buttload is a true term of measurement. Now, I wasn't using it correctly, so we'll award Joe a couple of points because a buttload is a unit of measure for certain liquids, not for Benjamins. While a buttload of ale is 108 imperial gallons, that's for ale. I asked how many imperial gallons make up a buttload of wine, which isn't the same. Of course, duh. The correct answer is, well, I'll say this. It's 117 more than what Chris guessed. It's 72 more than what Paula guessed, and just 71 more than what OG guessed, because the correct answer is 126 imperial gallons, making golf cheater OG our winner.
OG sprinting back toward the front. Now only a
He's
half
back up, just a half point back.
Half point back. We're
Jesse's had his fun
coming in. And now, Paula, if you win the next 5 in a row, you'll be up there too.
Man. And 100, I wasn't even, the base 10, base 12 thing doesn't even work with that.
No.
126 can be divided by 3, but not by 4.
But the whole idea of 2 hogsheads, like OG, you said this earlier, like a hogshead doesn't hold that much, which made me think Chris would be right in that one. Okay, 9 gallons maybe, but 120 something. Wow. All right, let's jump back into luck. And obviously, I think we can apply luck to whoever wins our trivia each week, but we really don't want to apply luck to our portfolio. And we started off this conversation by defining the argument that talking about how curiosity can make you luckier. But a second area, Chris, and we'll start with you. She points to this idea of if you look to give before you get, you're going to be luckier. If I live to give. Did that resonate with you?
It did. There's a lot of studies and science out there that the more generous you are, the more it comes back to you in a variety of ways, right? It could be somebody helping you. It doesn't have to be like monetary, right? And so I am a true believer of that. So that's definitely something that struck me for sure.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Paula, because at the end of the first half, we were talking about who, not how. Mm-hmm. It seems you can build a network of who's easier if you're a giver.
Yeah. I mean, people like people. Obviously, people like people who are generous in spirit. But it's also, I mean, it's also the case. There's this thing called the Ben Franklin effect, that people will like you more if you reach out to them and ask them for small bits of help occasionally, nothing too onerous. But people generally, they like to both help and be helped, and that's part of building relationships. So the Ben Franklin effect comes from an observation that Ben Franklin made, in which he noticed that if he asked somebody if he could just borrow a book, so a very simple request, then that person was a little bit more invested in him.
It's funny. I I've tried to start doing this by practice lately, putting things in my calendar to reach out to people and just ask about them and not make it transactional. Just look through my list of friends and try to be much more intentional curiosity. Cause I have to tell you, I've noticed lately, the last several years, the last 5 years, I've spent a lot more time noticing that the people I like the best are just these people that are naturally curious, that are naturally givers, that are especially the more I get involved in my local community. And you see, it's the same group of people, and it's just it's a powerful thing. I do feel like, though, OG, as the professional here, when it comes to generosity, you've said throughout this conversation, well, we got to draw a line somewhere. I think that some people are so generous they get taken advantage of. Like, do you see that sometimes with people in their financial plan, that they get further ahead if they were such a damn giver?
No, I think I mean, when you say taken advantage of, I'm thinking about the person who is, maybe too helpful to family or something, maybe.
Yeah, maybe the
Hey,
kids.
my kids need a car, and it's like, well, they don't need a brand new Lexus. Like, your kids will be fine. If your kid really needs a car, I get that you want to help, but it doesn't have to be, $100,000 Mercedes. It could be a, $25,000 Toyota that will accomplish the goal of transportation as well. So but I don't know if that falls in the category of taking advantage, but I will say that people who, you said, invest in people who spend a lot of time thinking about being intentional around any giving strategies. It seems to me that those people are the ones that are entrusted more to do more stuff with more stuff. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, whether that's the universe, it's a spiritual being that you believe in, it's, there's some sort of life force, I think, that says, hey, you've done good with what we've given you so far. Here's a little more. Let's see what you do with this. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there just seems to be that. And whether, I don't think that falls in the category of luck so much as it's just being a good steward, and people will, you're just more responsible. Like, people see other people's success, and say, hey, that person's being very successful, being a very, a good person, by our standards of what that is. And so therefore, here's more responsibility. They get lucky. What are you going to say? They're just lucky.
just lucky because I was trustworthy in the past, and because I give more away. That's quote luck. Chris, did you ever see this book? I think it was an Oprah book read that was really controversial along maybe back in the 90s, early 2000s. The Secret. You remember The Secret?
I know
about this. Yeah, this idea of money karma, right? The idea that wealth flows back to people who contribute. They manifest more. They manifest money. Do you think there's any truth to this secret that I ask the universe, and then I become a giver, and then money flows back to me?
I am not really a woo-woo type person, right? But I do feel as though I learned something very similar through Brian Tracy. Some of his books, he has one called No Excuses, The Power of Self-Discipline. And even in that book, he talks about, being charitable, being able to give not only your time, but your money. And the more you give, the more people will give back to you, in terms of whether it's money, whether it's time, whether it's help with something. So, like I said, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not really. I know people talk, like my daughter's really big about manifesting, so she uses that term a lot. But it's just not my jam.
Paula, you think so? Manifesting?
There's such a hippie connotation to it. It's not.
Say, have you met my daughter?
Yeah. I get the idea. If I look past the terminology to the root idea, the notion that what you want, what you strive for, you are more likely to get, sure. But there's something, and it's different. No, just different words kind of appeal, either attract people or repel people. And there's something about manifesting that just it's not me.
It
Paula,
rubs
do
you
you
the wrong way.
believe in
The
the
like
notion-
I was gonna say I don't like the phrase so much either, because it feels like, you know, you didn't earn it, maybe, right? Like we're all achievers here, people that have kind of been successful because we work really hard. But I think about it in the sense of attention, and when you really focus your attention on one particular thing, then all of your energy and all of your mental bandwidth goes to how to solve this thing. And so some people might say I'm manifesting it, or you could just say I'm paying a whole bunch, you know, I'm manifesting healthy living. It's like, but if all I think about is eating healthy, working out, eating healthy, working out, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to eat healthy and I'm going to work out. And guess what? Then I'm going to look skinny and, you know, be jacked and tan. Like, okay, is it because I manifested it or because that was in my brain the whole time? And that's what I put all my energy on.
Right. You succeed at what you focus on. And if you're focusing on that, then that's
It's
what'll
you,
happen.
you manifested it
Well,
through
and
hard
that's,
freaking work
Although I
over
know
the
people
over the
that,
course of 2 decades.
although I also know people that'll burn this particular type of candle that's supposed to bring, you know, money, stuff like that. So who knows?
you don't do that, Chris?
I do not do that.
No.
He burned something.
I say Doug burned something to make manifest stuff. He has all sorts of visions
I
of
used to
sugar
have 'em-
flubs.
I used to have a money tree, like an actual money tree, and it was back. Oh, you got one? Oh,
Yeah,
you do?
yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
There it is.
This right here, money
Yeah.
tree.
Mine died.
Oh,
I don't know
Well,
what
that
that-
explains a lot.
Wah, wah, wah.
But it's funny, Chris, when you were talking, you know, we talk about manifesting, and OG, you spoke about manifesting, about really what we focus on. I think a lot of times our young stackers, that's the first thing they wonder is what should I be focused on, right? And Kate addresses this at the bottom of her piece, which I also love, talking about, you know, the path often starts with this feeling of being lost. Like, oh, gee, what do you say to our young stackers who are like, I'm not really sure what to focus on? Like, you know, you just said international. I should have stayed in, but how do I know to focus more on international? Like, what do you say to people that are looking to be, quote, a little lucky by figuring out what the real path is?
But none of those things are things that you should spend any time on. I didn't say that you should spend time focusing on international or any of that sort of stuff. I said you should spend time focusing on the things that are important to you about what you want to do or be or become as you continue on your path. And if you're 25 years old and you have no idea what 65 looks like, I don't blame you, because Joe's almost 65 and he has no idea what 65 looks like. You know, so it's a common thing.
Dude,
But
that
you
one
can
was good.
but you
I
can
applaud you for that one.
Every episode.
slow clap.
Yes.
Bravo,
That was better
sir.
than most of them.
Every
Well
episode.
done. But I bet you can say, I bet you could look at your, you know, the next 5 years of your work career and say, you know, I can see the people that are above me. I can see the career path. This is, you know, what I think what I'd like to have my life look like. Or, you know, I'm in a relationship. I think I would like to have some children sometime. If that happens, that would be cool. And in 20 years, I'm gonna have to pay for college, so I can spend some energy thinking about what that looks like. And, or I want to buy a house, or, you know, whatever it is that's not that 30-year goal. I mean, that's important. You got to have something way down the line. But you've talked about this a million times, Joe. The fun part is planning the vacation. It's not necessarily always being on the vacation.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, that's why you have one scheduled right now. You have something to look forward to. George Burns said that on his, you know, he's booked on his 100th birthday because he had something to look forward to. So just have something out there to look forward to. It's not going to matter how much international stuff you have. And if that's the message you got, I apologize. That's not what I meant to say.
Chris?
Well, I was going to say, so OG, I like where you were going with that. And if we're looking at the younger stackers, like how do we get those younger stackers to truly start looking at their future selves? They're doing this now for their future selves. You know, I have a 25-year-old and he can't look past next Tuesday. So how do you start to do that?
Well, I'm not sure that you can. I just think that you have to you just have to get out of whatever it is that's directly in front of you, and if you can pull something that's 6 months away, that's great. If you can pull something that's a year away, that's great. The reality is, Chris, to your point, like 25-year-olds only have 25 years of experience. They don't have experience of thinking about the next 25 years because they've only been in this first 25 years, so it's not really reasonable to assume that they're going to be able to, project this thing out there, for half a generation. But I do believe that if you get away from the day-to-day stuff and say, like, if I could draw this the way that I want, and maybe that's the answer. If I could draw this the way that I want, what would I do? What would I keep that I have? What would I do a little differently?
Got it. Cool.
I think that goes back for me to just getting out of home base, because to be able to, you got to get out of your surroundings, I think, to be able to think that way. And I also think, Paula, that what OG's talking about is a combination of two things, it seems to me: discipline and flexibility, right? I mean, on one hand, being flexible because, he mentioned three things. He mentioned college. Well, how many people that are 18 are sitting on three different college choices? They don't even know where they're going to be 12 months from now. Like, you don't even know if any of those are going to happen. Children, well, who knows if that's going to happen? What's going to happen there? And then buying a house. You and I on Afford Anything talk to somebody who's like, I can afford a house and I don't want to move from my area. Like, should I just plan on not having a house? Like, how do we stay flexible so that as the world tells us that these things aren't going to happen, we're flexible around that, but we still have the discipline to continue on building that stack?
The person that you and I spoke to on Afford Anything, I think she's actually a really good example of someone, she has spent the last 8 years saving up for a down payment. And and then she called us to say, "Hey, uh, this is what prices look like in the area where I live. This is what prices look like in this other area, but it would be a 2-hour commute to get to work. Um, Given the amount of money that I have, given this set of prices, given my goal of eventually, like, she's from Australia. She was like, given my goal of eventually leaving Australia and living overseas for a while and then eventually coming back and retiring. She was like, given all of the circumstances and parameters, um, should I, even though I've been saving for this for 8 years, should I do something else with this money? Should I just invest it and put it in the market and put it towards, you know, just market-based portfolio growth? And what I see there is that combination of discipline and flexibility. So she has the discipline to save the money. She also has the flexibility to at all times reconsider whether or not her initial goal for that bucket of money is the correct one.
Yeah, the goals
Particularly,
changed
Oh,
or
yeah,
shifted.
exactly.
after 9 years, after 8 years or whatever, I mean, your goals can totally change.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And so we're going through this right now with my parents have an endowment, a charitable endowment, right? And we're rewriting the name and the mission statement of the endowment because the types of charities that they want to fund now is very different than the types of charities that they wanted to fund at the time that they started it, right? And so that involves really restructuring and even renaming, going as far as to rename the whole thing. So again, it's that combination of structure, discipline, whatever you want to call it, with being able to, you know, to have the flexibility to respond to changing times and shifting priorities.
I love the idea. I saw Christina Tosi, the famous creator of Milk Bar. I saw a video with her last week, and she said that she would love to be able to ask people in interviews if they were a distance runner. And it was only because of the fact that she thought that Paul's like, I'm out. I'm
Yeah.
done.
Nope.
I'm out.
But distance runners like the infinite game. You're not a distance runner because you're looking to win something. You're out there because you like this infinite game of just being out there in nature running. And you could say the same for hikers or people doing whatever. But she said it translates well into the kitchen. And I kind of think here, as we wrap this up, that what you're all kind of talking about is the infinite game of just saving and flexibility and being curious versus applying them to new goals as you have new things that come along. Steel Off Tees is hanging out with us and had something I thought that was really good here for our younger stackers. And they say, I'd say a 25-year-old really only has like 2 to 3 years of experience. I think back to younger 20s, I struggled to see past a couple of years ahead, much like Chris was talking about earlier. Now almost 40, it's easier to see potentialities over 20 years. So give yourself the grace to have time and just play the infinite game, I think, over the short run. I love this idea of being curious. I think that is great. I like being comfortable with being lost. I think that is cool. And then also the idea of giving before you get, to increase your surface area for more luck in your life and with your money. I think that's a great place to leave it, guys. I want to find out what's going on with all of you before we say goodbye. OG, this fine mid-October weekend on tap. What do you got coming up, brother?
Oh, this is my fall break. I was telling you guys about. What you were supposed to say is, don't you have a fall break coming up?
Don't you have a fall break coming up?
I'm in the middle of it right now. This is our annual golf tournament that I play with my cousin, who is a fantastic golfer and fun to play with. So he's hanging out right now. And
Doug, have you played golf with OG's brother?
One time I have. It was memorable.
You gonna accuse him of cheating too?
What does that
there actually was an incident that day. We almost came to fisticuffs.
Wow.
What are you talking about? Well, this is not my brother. This is my cousin who's playing, who is not a cheater. And I think, Doug, you have played with my cousin too, maybe once.
I have not. I have not played with your cousin, but there was a day with you and Steak. I think it was Steak Brother and Jim.
Yeah. Yeah. I vaguely remember the finishing hole, but I don't remember anything else about the round. Anyway, so we're playing golf for 4 days, just having a great time, and happy to be able to do that.
Awesome. Paula, what's going on at the Afford Anything podcast here in mid-October?
Oh, on the Afford Anything podcast. So we've got an interview with Doug and Heather Bonaparte. Doug is famous for his Twitter feed. Sorry?
His hair?
Yeah, for his hair, for his hilarious Twitter feed. And he's basically a jokester. He has very, very funny tweets about money. But in a more serious realm, he and his wife Heather wrote a book about being a married couple, trying to figure out money and life together in the context of a family and in the context of a couple. And so that is what we're talking about.
That's interesting.
Yeah. We've also got Q&A episodes. Roughly every other episode is a Q&A with you, Joe. So you and I answer audience submitted questions.
With Douglas and Heather, I know a lot of people have told us as we've gone around the country that people like listening to our interviews because they're kind of a good A-B. I'll be talking to Douglas and Heather as well, but we're saving them for Halloween week, where we talk about relationship and money horror stories with the Bonapartes. Yes.
Nice.
So, and again, Paula and I talking to the same people about different things. So I think it's a good 1-2 punch. Nice. Speaking of the guy that's a 1-2 punch, whenever we come to a heavy metal concert, that doesn't make any sense, but Chris, thanks for hanging out, man. What's coming up at Heavy Metal Money?
Yeah. So just recently dropped a podcast, The Extreme Personal Finance Show, with Lauren Almond, a friend of mine that she was able to hit a millionaire status by the age of 31. She was able to retire by the age of 33. She has a portfolio of short-term and long-term rentals, as well as portfolio investments. So that was really cool. I just recently recorded an episode with Sean Mullaney, who we're going to talk all about taxes, but also, more importantly, all about charitable giving. So we're going to talk about donor advised funds, QCDs, tax implications, stuff like that. So that'll be really cool. And then I have another episode coming up by someone that we're going to talk about how to get ahead and have a professional career without even a college diploma. So getting your GED, you didn't get a college degree, but you're still able to keep moving forward and build a great career and family with that. So I'm excited. We got some good stuff coming up.
And that's in the Extreme Personal Finance Show, wherever
wherever you get it, and on YouTube.
Yeah, the YouTube stuff is fun as well for the Extreme Personal Finance Show. And by the way, you and I have a project we do together. If you're in the Twin Cities, you want to come hang out with Chris and our buddies Veronica, Mike, and some other people.
Absolutely, yeah. So the third Wednesday of every month, we meet in person here in the Twin Cities area, and we talk about all sorts of different money topics. We have Q&A and trivia with a great group of people, and it's super fun to get in real life, getting together with people. It's awesome.
You get to hang out with Heavy Metal Chris.
Heck yeah.
And other stackers in the Twin Cities. So you just look up Stacking Benjamins Twin Cities on Facebook, and we have a private Facebook group there, and it's super fun. But I can't wait. I'll be back up there next summer to party with you guys as well. But you've got a great holiday party coming up. I know you're going to throw axes, which for a bunch of money nerds, I'm not sure that's advisable, but
we did it last holiday and it was so much fun. Oh my gosh, it was a blast.
This is so fun. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Thanks for hanging out, everybody on YouTube. If you want to join us on YouTube, we do this on Monday. I love celebrating Fridays on Mondays, talking about what are we doing for the weekend on Monday. So come join us. It's in the afternoon on Mondays. And if you get the 201 newsletter, we'll send you an email that will tell you that what time we're going live. And it's either 3:30 Eastern or 5 p.m. Eastern. Check the week that we're doing it, but it's usually one of those two times. If you go to our YouTube page and subscribe, you'll be able to find it there. All right, Doug's got it from here. Doug, what are the 3 big takeaways we should have had after today's show?
Well, Joe, here's what's stacked up on our to-do list for today. First, take some advice from Chris Luger. Want to find more luck? Be curious, not judgmental. If you're curious, maybe you'd have asked him questions like, have you played a lot of darts, Chris? To which he would have answered, yes, sir, every Sunday afternoon at a sports bar with my father from age 10 until I was 16. Somebody listening will get that reference. Don't worry. Second,
I got it.
I got no idea. Paula?
Nope. No clue. No clue.
OG's got it. Second, learn from Paula's mistakes. Don't try to combine dry January with Whole 30 unless it's court ordered and you're being watched by your parole officer. But the big lesson, don't even try to explain to Joe's mom that a buttload is a unit of measure. So she'll ask you just how many bars of soap a buttload equals for your mouth. Thanks to Chris Luger for joining us today. You'll find Chris's Heavy Metal Money on YouTube or wherever you're listening to us right now. You'll also find him leading a Stacking Benjamins meetup in the Twin Cities each month. Come by and say hello. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. Thanks to Paula Pant for hanging out with us today. You'll find her fabulous podcast, Afford Anything, wherever you listen to finer podcasts. And finally, thanks also to OG for joining us today. Looking for good financial planning help? Head to stackingbenjamins.com/OG for his calendar.
All right. And it's a wrap, everybody. John, Paula, Paul, who else we got here? Rocky, Steel of Teas.
It's Steel Toffees.
Steel Toffees. Steel of Teas. John, Eddie.
I would have read that Steel of Teas as well, Joe.
Carrie's
That's
here.
Hilarious.
Ben. Yeah. Thanks to everybody for hanging out today. And we'll be back next week. I think we're here 5 p.m. Eastern. But check your local listing, as they say. All right.
In the TV guide.
You know what's funny is like that age range that has no idea what that means.
No idea what that means.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Does Paul even know what that means?
I do know what that means. I don't know Spinal Tap, but I do know what a TV guide is.
Hey,
All
Paula,
right, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Who's your turtle?
Oh, that's Joffrey. Yeah, this is
He's
Joffrey
awesome.
the turtle.
Yeah, he was saying hi. It was awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's my buddy.
As in, your turtle could qualify for the Joffrey Ballet.
Oh, boy.
Joffrey?
On that note, we're out of here, stackers.